Next on WoodSongs, Swiss power bluegrass trio, the KRUGER Brothers. And old-time music with the Carolina Chocolate Drops.
WoodSongs is made possible by Visit Lex.com, providing information and activities to visitors of historic Lexington, Kentucky. The Martin Guitar Company in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, making handcrafted acoustic guitars since 1833. The Deering Banjo Company, providing American-made banjos for front porch pickers and professionals, online at deeringbanjos.com. And by Fransky String Instruments of Prairie Village, Kansas, online at mfstrings.com.
Here on the Louisiana Hayride, his name is Hank Williams, the drifting cowboy.
On the Grand Ole Opry, Bill Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys.
Hi, this is Bruce Horns.
Hi, this is Kevin Moe.
Hey folks, this is Bela Fleck.
Hi folks, this is Sam Bush.
Hello, this is Odetta.
This is Joan Baez, and you're listening to the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour.
And now, gather the family around and sit back in your easy chair. It's time again for the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour, our worldwide celebration of grassroots music. Let's welcome folk singer, author, and tree hugger, Michael Jonathan.
Follow these woods and fences of stone. Follow these hills and these hollers alone. Where every bloom dies and rises again. These mountains are me, I can never leave. I cannot leave these imprisoning hills, and I'm held by a song of a whippoorwill. Forests so high, they're ripped from the sky. These hills are me, I can never leave. Midnight wind and morning breeze, mountain shadows imprisoning me. The sunrise will break these mountains to dust. These mountains are me,
And welcome to the historic Kentucky Theater. Here we are in our hometown of Lexington, Kentucky, with another full house. We're so grateful that everybody's tuning in, radio stations all over the world. We celebrate grassroots and independent music on our program, sitting here as we do in Lexington at the crossroads of America's folk and bluegrass music. We look at folk as a beautiful, wonderful musical diamond. It's folk and blues and bluegrass and country and Celtic and old-timey, new singer-songwriters. It's music of color and passion and personality and all kinds of these great elements that are fused into this magnificent diamond. For lack of a better word, call it folk, roots music, Americana. This stage is a celebration of the music and the artists who perform it. You don't have to be famous to be on WoodSongs. You just have to be good. Sometimes you're all those things and are friends. And these folks that are first on our stage today have made a name for themselves in the world of bluegrass all over the globe. Audiences are flocking out to see them. They're taking their music to a very adventurous level. Not only is it the tradition of Bill Monroe and J.D. Crowe and Earl Scruggs, but they're also performing their music with symphony orchestras and classical elements. It's a great example of a band that takes roots music and pushes it to limits beyond what most folks can expect. They've got a great CD that's called Up 18 North. This is the title song. Please welcome our friends from Switzerland, the KRUGER Brothers, to the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour. Jens Kruger on the banjo, Uwe Kruger on guitar, Joe Landsberg on the bass, the Kruger Brothers. It's Uwe, this is a really nice CD, Up 18 North. You just played the title cut.
Yes.
And your CDs are very nice representations of what people are hearing on stage right now. There's not a whole lot of surprises. It's not like you overproduce your records or anything.
No, we just sit around a microphone and just record pretty much the way we perform. And it's a long and tedious process because we go back and again until we get it right. You know,
a lot it takes.
But then also when we get to perform the songs again after we recorded them, they're pretty much practiced, you know, so that's a good thing.
Now, you and your brother Jens are from Switzerland.
Yeah, we grew up in Switzerland.
And music was introduced to you from your father at a young age.
Yeah, my father studied in the United States back in the 50s and brought back some records. You know, we grew up with, we had Mozart and Beethoven and all that stuff at home. At the same time, Jim Reeves and Chet Atkins, you know, and so we fell in love with country music really early. And in our family, everybody played the guitar. So I started out playing the guitar when I was like 7, and Jens loved the banjo. And my mom bought him a banjo when he was like 7, and then we started playing.
So it was very young, and it was in your family, and your family encouraged you to
Yes,
play.
Exactly.
Can you play me something on your guitar? Do a solo piece? I mean, are you tuned up and ready for something? Or?
I don't really perform solo pieces. You know, I play with the trio, but you know,
let me hear just the sound of your guitar. Yeah. Yeah, well,
I like that, you know.
I don't do solo pieces. You use a very hard pick on your guitar.
Yeah, so hard pick and hard strings and a big guitar.
Yeah, right. Well, let's everybody say hi to Jens on the banjo, playing a magnificent banjo. We're going to talk about this in the second half hour, but very briefly, you write a lot of the instrumental compositions for the Kruger Brothers, and you also have this really burning desire to perform with symphony orchestras as a bluegrass ensemble.
Yeah, I thought, well, the banjo and the guitar and the bass, they sound beautiful together, but sometimes, you know, you can hear all these, you know that, you're a banjo player.
Not like you. Don't put me in the same room as you.
But we, you know, while we perform, you know, we call it almost chamber music. It's living room music. When we, you know, sit at home and play folk songs, you could sometimes hear a lot more behind that than just the instrument that you hear in the room. And an orchestra does a good job, you know.
Yeah, well, they certainly fill the holes, don't they?
Yes, and I was always interested in writing scores, and so this is it's been a lot of fun to write all the parts for the French horns.
Isn't that a lot of work, though? I mean,
yes, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. You know, it's challenging, but it's a lot of fun.
And what's nice is that that you, as an ensemble, the Kruger Brothers, do go out performing with symphony orchestras, the kind of music that people are hearing now, but with a full symphony behind you.
Yes, we have a project with the Bangor Symphony Orchestra, and the program that we've written is the name of it is Music from the Spring, and it's a full evening program with the symphony.
Well, it's something that I think your fans and fans of bluegrass music can certainly push their musical envelope with you as you stretch into these different boundaries, like with symphonies and stuff. Going back to your CD, Up 18 North, there's a great song on there called Carolina in the Fall. You gonna play it for us? Mm-hmm. Carolina in the Fall, it's the Kruger Brothers on the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour.
All the places I've been to and all the things that I have seen since I left my home to wander when I was just 15. Oh, the traveling was easy, still sometimes the road got rough, and by the time that I turned 35, I thought I'd seen enough. But for me to settle down a while was not what God had planned. So one more time, I left my home, suitcase in my hand. And the journey took me far and wide, across the deep blue sea. And now I know since I've been there where I was meant to be. And I've seen sunsets on the ocean, I've seen the desert bloom, drove the endless highways beneath the prairie moon. Yet the picture in my mind I see, I think about it all, is the color of the leaves in Carolina in the fall. The songs the doc had taught to me, and the things that he would sing about I never dreamed I'd see. In them hills of Carolina, folks have opened up the door, and for the first time in my life I'm not a stranger anymore. And I've seen sunsets on the ocean, I've seen the desert bloom, drove the endless highways beneath the prairie moon. Yet the picture in my mind I see, I think about it all, is the color of the leaves in Carolina in the fall. I think about it all, is the color of the leaves in Carolina in the fall.
Song is Caroline in the Fall, the CD Up 18 North. The KRUGER Brothers are on our broadcast, and certainly the KRUGER Brothers, Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, other artists like them that are representing the adventurous and progressive side of bluegrass and roots music. You go backwards to the days of Earl Scruggs, Bill Monroe, and others that represent what we consider maybe the traditional side of bluegrass and roots music, but predating that by many scores of years. It began on ships coming from the western side of Africa, and people would be bringing these little gourd instruments with a stick plugged into the gourd, and they would come to America, and they would play these instruments, and it was part of a culture that was very much with the black Americans, the African Americans, and the slaves at the time. Not that we're going to a big discussion of that particular part of American history, but the music really comes from there. And one of the very few bands that are representing this music and carrying on the tradition that is really many generations old are the next artists on our stage. They come from North Carolina. They've got a great CD out called Donna Got a Ramblin' Mind. Here's a song called Georgie Buck to introduce themselves. Please welcome to the stage Carolina Chocolate Drops to the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour. Carolina Chocolate Drops. Justin Robinson on the fiddle, Rhiannon Giddens on the clawhammer banjo, Dom Flemons playing the jug. Actually, you were actually on stage for the radio audience. You actually got an old clay jug. It's got a strap on it, and you can talk to me about it.
I played the jug. I was brought up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I just happened to see a movie called, it's out actually, it's called Festival, and it's a compilation of the 1963 to 1966 Newport Folk Festival. Right. And in the first segment, they have the Jim Queskin Jug Band, and so I watched that a lot of times, because in the back you got Fritz Richmond playing the jug, and I'd always wondered about it, because, you just wondered, how do you get all that sound out of a jug? You hear all the recordings, and so I just took it to folk festivals with me out there in Arizona and just learned, and then when I got together with these guys, I just started playing with them.
Well, let's say hi to Rhiannon playing the clawhammer banjo. Rhiannon, welcome to the show.
Hello.
You during my introduction of you as a band, you held up one of the gourd instruments, that the banjar that Thomas Jefferson had seen the slaves playing. The banjo was originally an instrument of color.
Yes, well, this is actually called an akonting. It's from the Gambia, West Africa, and this is just one of the many African instruments that eventually melded into the banjo. There's some from Mali and Senegal, and there's a whole group of them, but this is just one, and this is actually played clawhammer style. They call it the Utek style. So when I went to learn over there, I already knew the clawhammer, so all I had to do was learn everything else, which was considerable. I've got this much, but hope to go back.
You're doing fine. Where does your interest in a young woman playing the banjo, the old-time string music and stuff, just in general, where does your interest in this music come from?
Well, I started becoming very interested in it just through the dance. I went to a lot of contras and squares, and then I started wanting to know more about the musicians, a lot of the old-time bands that were playing in North Carolina, and then I discovered the African roots of the banjo, and that's when I really, really got interested in wanting to, because I always kind of felt furtive about it, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be interested in this music, but then when I learned the history, I was like, oh, it's part of my, it's all in my family, so that's one of the reasons.
Now you're alluding to something that I always found kind of interesting, almost dismayed about. There are not a lot of young African American people that are interested in the instruments of their culture, the instruments that were originally of that people.
Well, we're hoping that's changing, because for a long time there wasn't a lot of youth in the old-time community as a general rule, but now there's a lot of kids of the folk revivalists, their kids are growing up, and then we're discovering that kids of color are coming up to us. It's not that they don't want to play the instruments, it's just they didn't think it was part of their history. So that they see us playing it and they're like, oh, okay, so it's really cool to bring some color back into old time, since old time came out of color and white, together.
Sure, absolutely. And what's nice is that you're not only wonderful musicians and a great stage act, but this is like an educational force on tour. I'm sure that you're surprising a lot of people, young and old, of different races and colors. Who cares about that? It's just good music, and it's fun to listen to. So it must be a lot of fun to play.
That's one of the very interesting things, is that we all individually got into our musics by ourselves, and we all at the same time found out about the African roots of the banjo, and all of us just together were like, yeah, let's do this. We're of like minds, we like this, and so it's really rewarding that we can tour, and then we can see people just liking it, It's really, really nice.
Good music crosses all boundaries, always. Let's go back into music. You're going to treat us to a unreleased song that you're going to dip into. Here's a great tune. It's called the Will Adams Breakdown, and we're going to get together with some of our instruments. He's got going to be standing in the back. What we've got for our radio audience now, Dom has got a drum kit strapped around him, and he's standing about 12 feet behind Rhiannon. This is going to be fun. The Will Adams Breakdown is the Carolina Chocolate Drops on the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour.
Hey folks, this is Bela Fleck.
Hi, this is Victor Wooten.
Everybody, this is Jeff Coffin.
This is Future Man of Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, and you're exploring the world of grassroots music with folk singer Michael Jonathan on the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour.
Thank you, Victor and the guys. Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. So nice that everybody could be here. We've got the Carolina Chocolate Drops on our stage from North Carolina and from Switzerland. The KRUGER Brothers are here. People tune in to WoodSongs from all over the world. If you enjoy listening to this radio station and hearing this show and the musicianship of the Carolina Chocolate Drops, the great musicianship of the KRUGER Brothers, if you're enjoying this radio broadcast, you can go to our website and you can actually watch them in multi-camera glory up close and see what their hands are doing and how they're playing these instruments. So many people from around the world do tune in and go to our archives online for that purpose. And here's an example dipping into the WoodSongs mailbag. Dear Michael, I really enjoy WoodSongs a lot, and I tune in all the time. There's a huge world of absolutely marvelous, mostly unsigned artists out there, and it seems like you're finding them all. I wish you the very best with WoodSongs and all the artists and musicians. Thank you so much. It really is a landmark of independent music, and it's needed. Kind regards, Zach Arande from Sweden wrote that email. Grew up in Switzerland. Music was part of your family. How does a kid in Switzerland get so absorbed in the banjo like you did?
Well, when I heard the banjo sound, I thought, well, where the banjo is played, this is a good place. I want to be there too, you know. And I found it was true, you know. People were nice, and I came to America once in 1982. And stayed here for a summer, and that was beautiful. So.
And wasn't that the Bill Monroe, the Bean Blossom?
Oh yeah, I met Bill Monroe, and he invited me for a few shows in the Grand Ole Opry, and I stayed at his home for a few months. And
that must have been thrilling for you.
Yes, it was.
I mean, did you expect that at all? That Bill Monroe was going to pay attention to you?
No way. That was really an amazing. But he was very funny. You know, he said. He asked me after the Grand Ole Opry, he said to me, you know, what do you want to do in life? I said, well, I would like to become a bluegrass musician, you know, always, you know, just doing that. And he said, well, you don't have to do that, you know. He says, you can't do that. You're not from Kentucky. You can't play bluegrass music. And, but he said, so do something of your own. But I tried, but, you know, but I love the music from here, and I love the way the Irish music changed, and the Afro-American influences, you know, has been strong in the music, especially with Bill Monroe. Sure. And so now let's play an instrumental. Let's play an instrumental that sounds a little bit more traditional, huh?
You want to get into it?
Yeah.
Go straight into the music? This is an unreleased song that you're going to play for everybody.
Yes,
The song is called Behind the Barn. It's the KRUGER Brothers getting down and dirty on the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour. Great song. Jens Kruger on the banjo, Uwe on the guitar. Joe Landsberg, how did a New York City boy hook up with two bluegrass dudes from Switzerland? I mean, how on earth did that happen?
I'll give you the abridged version. My ex-wife, who was Swiss, had something to do with it. No. But, I moved over there in 1989 and met Jens and Uwe very shortly after moving over there, and we became very good friends very shortly after that. And we've been playing together ever since, pretty much.
That's a marriage made in heaven. Joel, of course, is one of the finest, most solid bass players in bluegrass music. And tell me about your instrument. You're playing a...
I've got this just about a year now. It's a beautiful instrument made by a luthier from Northern California. His name is Tom Rebecki, and he just recently started making these beautiful sort of half arch top, half flat top acoustic bass guitars. And
let's get back into your music again. We're going to go into the title cut of yet another one of your records. How many albums does the Kruger Brothers have out there?
Nine,
got
I
about
think, in
9
print.
CDs.
A bunch, right?
And we have about 3 or 4 that are out of print, and we got a couple of them that we have recorded but not released yet. So we don't.
Now,
really
isn't
know.
one of those unreleased albums some of the symphony work that you guys have been doing?
Yes, we recorded that under the title "The Suite," and it's going to be out in the somewhere sometime this year. And it's 45 minutes of music without interruption.
Wow!
Just play straight through. You know, so.
And you had to write that 45 minutes worth of music?
Well, some of it we have already written years and years ago, and just collected them and just strung them together in a very new way. And then there's some about half of it is brand spanking new. Yes.
Wow, that's putting some high octane fuel in bluegrass music. I enjoy what you're doing. Here's the title cut of a really great CD of the Kruger Brothers. The tune is called Choices. It's the Kruger Brothers on the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour.
So you knew you couldn't stay. All you did was run away from the place you once called home, just to find where you belong. And now you know just how it feels when you walk these streets in tears. You know you won't turn back as you move along the track. And there's no reason to despair, for there's always someone there who loves you more than you'll ever know. It doesn't matter where you go. When you find yourself alone in a world as cold as stone, in the darkness there's a light that will guide you through the night. When the time has come to see that the future's meant to be, and the choices you recall were no choices after all. And there's no reason to despair, for there's always someone there who loves you more than you'll ever know. It doesn't matter where you go. So let's sing and dance, old friend. Leave our worries where they stand. Trust the promise that was made, that his love would never fade. When it all comes to an end, he will take us by the hand and show us through the land. Peace and joy will never end. And there's no reason to despair, for there's always someone there who loves you more than you'll ever know. It doesn't matter where you go. someone there who loves you more than you'll ever know. Doesn't matter where you go.
Great song. Title cut choice is the KRUGER Brothers on our broadcast. The Carolina Chocolate Drops are here, and they're going to do something a little bit different right now. Dom has picked up the banjo. Rhiannon has picked up the fiddle. They're going to do a tune from their CD, Colored Aristocracy. It's called Viper Mad. It's the Carolina Chocolate Drops on the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour.
I'm Viper Man, must have my fun. I'm never sad, it can't be done. The people are talking, but I don't care. Good God Almighty, I'm 21, far from done. I've just begun. Wrap your chops round the stick of tea. Now blow this game and get high with me. Send me gay, and I can't wait. I'm Viper Man. Go, gal. Wrap your chops around this stick of tea. Now blow this game and get tall with me. Good tea is my weakness. I know it's bad. You send me gay and I can't wait. I'm Viper Man. Bop beep, bop beep, bop beep, beep, bop beep, bop beep, bop school, bop bop, bop do la do la do.
Carolina Chocolate Drops, Dom Flemons on that very adventurous vocal. Let's say hi to Justin Robinson sitting there with his fiddle in his lap. Justin, I mean, you folks are going to think old-timey music, they're automatically going to think of the Appalachian Mountains, which is not necessarily the true root core beginnings of this music in North America. I mean, why don't you tell me a little bit about the history, if you want?
Well, what we play is a Piedmont style of old-time music, and the Piedmont style is right. It backs right. The Piedmont actually backs up right to the mountains. It literally means the foot of the mountains. So it's where the economic center of North Carolina, Virginia, and South Carolina all are. And this area was a very heavy demographically. It was more black than it was, and then it was in a lot of other places in North Carolina. So in this tradition, the banjo is the lead instrument. So what the fiddle's doing is often accompanying the banjo, which is pretty different than a lot of other traditions, especially in Appalachia.
And there's a lot of fiddle players out there that brought that tradition forward. Joe Thompson is a good example. Right. And there's so many other players out there. Rhiannon, I mean, there's ways that people listening to this broadcast and hearing the Carolina Chocolate Drops, and they're interested in that community of players. We're talking black or white. I mean, Mike Seeger is part of this great community of true old-time traditional players. And how there's festivals like the Black Banjo Festival. Tell me about that festival.
Well, that festival happened in Boone, North Carolina in 2005, and it's funny that you should mention that, because that was a huge festival bringing together a lot of the people who have been talking about the roots of the banjo being African, and also two African players, Sheikh Kamala Jabate and Daniel Jata, and then Mike Seeger and Bella Fleck was hanging out, and it was really, Joe Thompson was there, Aljamain Hinton. It was an incredible sort of meeting together of these people who'd been talking about this for years, and then also there were the scholars and academics, but then there were also some of the players, like black banjo players who'd been like alone in their states going, I'm the only one,
well,
you
like
know.
The Ebony Hillbillies.
The Ebony
in New York
Hillbillies, right, in New York. And so it brought us all together, and that's actually where we all met each other, and we wouldn't be a band now if it wasn't for the Black Banjo Gathering. So.
Right. There is a growing re-recognition. I realize that's not a true word, but I'm going to use that word. They're recognizing it all over again for the true value that it is, and it's great that young bands like the Carolina Chocolate Drops are taking this passionate interest in a very important part of our musical culture. Now we're going to go back into your music. The new CD is called Dona Got a Ramblin' Mind. Did I say that right? Yeah. Tell me about Dona.
Well, this is a tune that we learned from our mentor, like you mentioned, Joe Thompson, before. When we first started going down there and learning from him, we thought that Dona was a woman. It turned out that Dona was his coon dog. So we found out fairly quickly that he was.
Pays to ask, doesn't it?
Yeah, it pays to ask and not to assume something. But that's the title of our CD. We play that song's actually on there, and this next one that we'll play is on there also.
The song is Sourwood Mountain. Let's get into it. The Carolina Chocolate Drops on the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour.
Roosters crowing on Sourwood Mountain, hi-ho. So many pretty girls you can't count 'em.
That's fun, that's happy, and that's energy. The Carolina Chocolate Drops, their CD, Dona Got a Ramblin' Mind, Sourwood Mountains, the song you just heard, and we've got one of the best banjo players on planet Earth sitting on our stage, and I only have 60 seconds, and we're going to get Jens KRUGER to just play something wonderful on that pretty Deering of yours.
That was fancy.
Jens KRUGER, that's how you use the neck of a banjo, right there. Wasn't it wonderful having the KRUGER brothers on our broadcast? And a great young band like the Carolina Chocolate Drops keeping that old-time tradition alive. No matter what your passion, no matter what your culture, no matter what your family history, you notice something important happens in each case of these different bands. The Carolina Chocolate Drops music was part of their history, their childhoods. Their parents were a big part of what they learned. The KRUGER brothers, it was their dad who brought records over from America to Switzerland. Families are very important, and it's families that encourage the artistic spark in these kids. Do not underestimate the value of your encouragement to your own children. My name is Michael Jonathan. I am a folk singer. I am a tree hugger, and we'll see you next week on the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. There are so many talented artists that appear on our stage. It's very hard sometimes to pick the ones that appear on our TV broadcast. So what we're going to do is leave you with a performance from our huge online archive of past shows. We'll see you next time on the WoodSongs Old Time Radio Hour.
Closed captioning provided by Highbridge Springwater. WoodSongs is made possible by VisitLex.com, providing information and activities to visitors of historic Lexington, Kentucky. The Martin Guitar Company in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, making handcrafted acoustic guitars since 1833. The Deering Banjo Company, providing American-made banjos for front porch pickers and professionals, online at DeeringBanjos.com. And by Fransky String Instruments of Prairie Village, Kansas, online at mfstrings.com.